We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God, help us all. If you fail to prove us wrong, God, help us.
One trillion species, 7.8 billion humans, 1.9 million species extinct, one planet. Where are we heading? What should we do?
Watch Climate Tracker, only on WION. World is One.
From the world's most volatile region, conflicts over faith and boundaries. Stories of death, destruction, despair, and hope. WION brings you to the heart of the action. Incisive analysis, unrivaled perspective, and exclusive ground reports. Watch West Asia Post every Friday, 8:30 p.m. IST with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. For 11 months now, Ukraine has been fighting against Russia. The war has dragged on. There is no end to the question, no answer. Who is winning this war? Last night, we told you how Russia now has a new weapon against Ukraine, clean-shaven faces of its soldiers. Tonight, we are telling you the story of a new enemy that Ukraine is fighting. We're not talking about Russia or its new weapons. We are talking about an enemy called graft, an anti-graft purge that's underway in Ukraine. Is corruption eating away the aid that Ukraine has got? As the war drags on, we get you the latest that's happening on the ground. Also on the show for you tonight, we continue to tell you how the American dream has become the American dread. How students who go to the US to pursue the great American dream end up paying a heavy price. We get to the story of an Indian student who paid the price with his life. An unspecified respiratory illness has triggered a 5-day-long lockdown in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. We tell you what's brewing on the ground. Trouble is mounting for Joe Biden as Democrats slam him over his handling of the files fiasco. Former Vice President Mike Pence now also in the same soup. The story of a heroic dog who has won a gallantry medal for helping the US Marines in Afghanistan. There is a purge underway in Ukraine, a purge within the corridors of power. On target are scores of political leaders, leaders whom the president has deemed corrupt. They are being sacked from their posts, held accountable for their deceit. It is being called the biggest political shakeup. A shakeup that we must report on because it concerns not just Ukraine, but also leaders sitting in the West, who, remember, went out of the way and took pains to fund Ukraine's battle against Russia. And this purge poses serious questions for them. Questions like, was the financial aid they provided Ukraine misused? Did the funding fall victim to political malfeasance? Did it fill the coffers of Ukraine's corrupt officials? Over the next 4 minutes, we will try and answer these questions and tell you what the West has to say about this. First things first, let me break the story down for you. Why is Ukraine carrying on with this purge? Like I said, due to deep-rooted corruption within its ranks. Who was perpetuating this corruption? A host of people close to Zelensky. There's Vyacheslav Shapovalov, the Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine. Oleksiy Semonenko, the Deputy Prosecutor General of Ukraine. Vasyl Lozinsky, the Deputy Infrastructure Minister. Vyacheslav Negoda, the Deputy Minister for Development of Communities. Ivan Lukeria, another Deputy Minister for Development of Communities. Vitalij Moschenko, the Deputy Minister for Social Policy, and Kirilo Tymoshenko, the Deputy Head of the President's Office. Now, besides them, there are 5 regional governors who have also been sacked, and they were in charge of regions like Dnipropetrovsk, Sumy, Zaporizhia, Kherson, as well as the region around the capital, Kiev. The list is quite long. The point I'm making is short. A political crisis has gripped Ukraine, a crisis triggered not by the opposition or any external forces or Ukraine's perceived enemies for that matter, but the country's ruling politicians themselves. And wait until you hear the charges against them. The Deputy Infrastructure Minister has been accused of siphoning $400,000 from contracts to buy generators. Ukraine needed these generators to deal with its electricity shortages. The minister used the money to electrify his bank account. And last we checked, he had been put behind bars. The Deputy Prosecutor General was dismissed for leaving the country during martial law. Apparently, he went for vacation to Spain in December in a Mercedes car owned by a businessman who has been accused of running a black market for cigarettes. And that's not even all. This minister also tried blocking corruption cases to curry favor with his colleagues in the government. The charges against the others are not clear yet, but reports say that most of them have been asked to resign. Resign due to what? This Ukraine will not say. And why would it? It is in the middle of a war after all. Its ministers have been caught indulging in fraud amid this war. Speaking about the charges against them makes for bad press. So the Ukrainian authorities are tight-lipped about the matter. Meanwhile, the president is issuing subtle statements such as these. Statements that paint this purge as a step towards reform. Let me quote, "Any internal problems that interfere with the state are being cleaned up and will be cleaned up. This is only fair. It is necessary for our protection, and it helps our rapprochement with the European institutions. We need a strong state, and Ukraine will be just that." Now, here's the thing. No matter what Ukraine says, no matter Zelensky's pledges on making Ukraine a strong state, the fact of the matter is that the country has always been corrupt. I know this may sound politically incorrect to those who sympathize with Ukraine at this point, but I'm only stating facts here. Ukraine, you see, has a history of graft and shaky governance. In fact, headlines by the West's own media houses once called Ukraine the most corrupt nation in Europe. This 2015 report by The Guardian being proof. Even before that, corruption had troubled Ukrainian society for a long time. Bribes or gifts were the way things worked for almost everything in Ukraine, be it public services, education, healthcare. The people had to bribe the officials to get the work done. And every time they could not deal with the rot, they hit the streets. Take the 2004 Orange Revolution, a series of strikes and protests. What triggered them? The presidential election that year. An election voters said was won by intimidation and fraud. The Viktor Yanukovych faced allegations of rigging. He eventually had to leave office. And some 10 years later, Ukraine was hit by another revolution, the Euromaidan movement, and this one also was over widespread corruption, abuse of power by the politicians, violation of human rights, and the influence of oligarchs. Plus, Ukraine's decision to choose closer ties with Russia in an agreement. And all of this led to a wave of demonstrations with the people protesting for weeks at stretch. And then in 2019, Volodymyr Zelensky came to power with the promise of rooting out corruption. Yet in 2021, that is just 2 years after he became president, Ukraine was still ranked as the 122nd most corrupt country in the world. And even now, he is struggling with the same problem. Carrying on with this purging his ministers for misusing their office. Is this a sign that Zelensky has failed to tackle corruption? That for all his grand promises, political misconduct is still festering under his rule? It certainly looks like it. And what's worse is the timing of it all. This problem has reared its head again at the worst possible time. With Russian tanks surrounding the country, looking to capture large areas of the territory, could this scandal have a bearing on this war? We don't know, but experts had issued warnings long back. Look at this report. The Wall Street Journal carried this in July 2020. It said that security officials in Western countries were worried that financial aid to Ukraine could be misused. Some of them had even informed the Pentagon about the possibility of arms and money either being diverted or stolen. And then in October 2022, editors at Bloomberg published this plea. They asked the Western leaders to appoint a watchdog for aid to Ukraine. They said more transparency was required on how Ukraine was spending the money. The warning fell on deaf ears. And now, with this purge underway in Ukraine and Kiev not giving much details about the charges, the West must initiate a probe into the kind of fraud that the ministers concerned committed. Was it related to the war? Did they embezzle war money as well? Did they misuse financial donations? These are questions that the West must ask Ukraine. If not for the sake of transparency, then for the sake of their taxpayers whose money is funding this very war. And guess what? The war in Ukraine has moved the Doomsday clock closer to midnight. For the unversed, the Doomsday clock is a timepiece that tells you how close humanity is to the point of annihilation. In 1947, the clock started ticking at 7 minutes to midnight. And 76 years on, it has been adjusted to just 90 seconds to midnight. Courtesy the war in Ukraine. Here's a detailed report.
This is the Doomsday clock, a symbolic timepiece. It's been ticking for over 76 years, representing the point of annihilation, a point when this world will come to an end. Guess what? We're closer to that point than we've ever been.
90 seconds to midnight.
Yes. On Monday, scientists who maintain this clock moved it closer to midnight, closer to the end of humanity. They say the clock is just 90 seconds to midnight. This is their most pessimistic prognosis yet. What explains this? Well, a host of reasons. The major ones being the threat of a nuclear war, the prevalence of deadly diseases, the ever-increasing climate volatility. This is what the bulletin's president said at a news conference. Russia's thinly veiled threats to use nuclear weapons remind the world that escalation of the conflict by accident, intention, or miscalculation is a terrible risk. The possibilities that the conflict could spin out of anyone's control remains high. Now I know there must be a lot of questions on your mind. So what is this clock? How does it work? Who decides the time? So we've decided to answer for you. To start with, this clock was created in 1947 by a group of atomic scientists, including Albert Einstein. A body called the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists updates the time annually based on information regarding catastrophic risks. The world events are discussed by a board of scientists and experts in various fields. In 1947, the clock started ticking at 7 minutes to midnight. In 1991, when the Cold War ended, the clock was furthest from Doomsday at 17 minutes to midnight. And today, the clock is just 90 seconds to midnight. A lot of the blame goes to the Ukraine war. The fear of bioweapons being deployed, the risks to the climate due to the war, and increased coal usage to generate power are the key reasons. The scientists say all these reasons pose an unprecedented danger, and they're taking this world closer to annihilation. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
If you are a parent, you must have dreamt of providing your child with the best education, perhaps getting them enrolled in one of the top universities abroad. If an acceptance letter dropped in from one of the sought-after universities in America, you would probably jump with joy. But should you? America is called the land of dreams, but lately those dreams have turned into nightmares. What if your child goes to the United States for studies to live the American dream, and then you receive a call that your child has been shot at? If you follow this show, we have been telling you about the US gun violence epidemic, how mass shootings have turned the American dream into the American dread. Have a look at the picture on your screen. This is Sai Charan. He hailed from the Indian state of Telangana. He flew to the US to study at the Governor's State University of Chicago. He landed in America on the 13th of January. Not even 2 weeks had gone by, and he and his friends were shot at by robbers. Sai Charan had a gun wound in his armpit. Fortunately, he is said to be out of danger, but his friend, Nandapu Devansh, was not as lucky. He received a bullet in his chest. He succumbed to the wound. Devansh was from the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. What was his fault? Why did he have to pay with his life? He was simply walking to a Walmart with his friends Sai Charan and Lakshman. The three of them were approached by armed robbers, looted and shot at in Chicago's Princeton Park, killed in cold blood. Whose fault was this? Except the US government's and the lawmakers, nobody else's. They have been sleeping on the mass shootings that are happening in the country. They are not moving a finger to protect the lives of the people on American soil, to tighten the gun laws. They are happy to turn a blind eye to people suffering as long as their political greed is satisfied. We have been telling you about this for the last 2 days as well, because the alarming number of mass shootings in the US just keeps increasing every day. And it's not only America's problem anymore, it has looped in immigrants and students from around the world. I have some figures for you. Look at this Open Doors report. It says the US remains a top choice for Indian students pursuing higher education abroad. In the academic year 2021 to 2022, almost 200,000 Indian students chose America for their masters. There are over 1 million foreign students in America, and nearly 21% of them are Indians. And when these students go to the US, they have dreams in their eyes. But given the current situation, those dreams are being replaced by dread. There is a serious need to reassess this American dream. But what can we say? American lawmakers cannot protect their own citizens, their high school students, or even innocent toddlers. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, over 45,000 people died from gun-related injuries in 2020. 54% of the deaths were suicides, 43% murders, 3% were unintentional or had undetermined circumstances. Gun murders in particular have climbed sharply in recent years. Nearly 79% US murders in 2020 involved a firearm, and gun suicides are also near their highest point on record. 53% of them in 2020 involved a gun. Have a look for yourself. If I simply talk about the last 3 days, an Indian student has been shot dead 11 people have been killed at a Los Angeles area dance hall. 7 others were murdered at 2 farms in Half Moon Bay near San Francisco. And these are the incidents you can only see in the US, and Americans themselves are aware of this.
Only in America do we see this kind of carnage, this kind of chaos, this kind of destruction of communities and lives and confidence and a sense of safety and belonging, which we all yearn for, regardless of our political stripes. Shame on these judges that are rolling back the laws that we've established in the state of California. Shame on them. You deserve better. We deserve better. And so I'm here processing, like all of us, the absurdity, the theater, look around, of absurdity, only in America.
And what does America have to say in its defense? Why are mass shootings so prevalent there? Because guns are so easily available. We've been telling you about this. That's what everyone has been screaming about lately. Incidents of unintentional shootings by children, angry teenagers storming into schools and killing innocents, or depressed individuals shooting themselves. This is what Americans witness almost on a daily basis. But the administration simply does not seem to care. Let's now turn to China. We are getting more details about the spread of the Wuhan virus there. Details that help you assess the scale of this tragedy. Let me start with this report. The Global Times carried this today. It indicates a rare admission by China. It says daily infections in the country peaked at nearly 7 million on the 22nd of December last year. This is China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention that's talking. It says one day China reported 7 million cases. Now, what's the point of this admission? To show how cases have fallen now? In the same report, it also said that after December 22nd, the cases plummeted to 15,000. What is the point of this admission? To show how cases have fallen now? And in the same report, the CDC also said that after December 22nd, the cases plummeted to 15,000. Remember, this admission comes right after a prominent scientist in China warned that 80% of China could be infected by the 31st of January. 80%. So Beijing is only trying to downplay these concerns with reports like these. But you see, their claims don't add up. Look at this report. It says crematoriums in China are still occupied at their maximum capacity and coffins are selling out. This is happening in the northern Shanxi province. Reporters who recently visited the province say that the deaths are so high in the area that coffin makers have nothing left to sell. And that's just one aspect. Another aspect of this story is this: a massive surge in China's funeral industry. This report says that there is a huge explosion in funeral decorations, almost 2 or 3 times as compared to what's normal. Funeral organizers are earning a fortune through this, and it doesn't end there. A few days ago, Planet Labs released some satellite images. Images that showed long queues of vehicles outside China's funeral homes. Where are these images from? 2 areas, the Guangzhou province and the Liaoning province. Both had been hit by a severe wave of this virus. And according to the report, funeral homes in Guangzhou's Panyu district and in the sub-provincial city of Shenyang have never seen as much traffic in 5 to 10 years as they have recently. And the nightmare does not end there, it only gets more worrying. According to researchers, the next worrisome COVID-19 variant could also come from China. They say as people in China acquire more natural immunity, this virus also could evolve in different ways to escape these immune protections. And scientists say it's very crucial that these variants are tracked. But this is China we are talking about. Will tracking be easy? Not really. More so given the track record of certain countries. The study says that during the first 2 years of the pandemic, 78% of high-income countries sequenced just 0.5% of their COVID-19 cases. And this data is abysmal. What's worse, this testing has further fallen. Some countries have stopped genome sequencing. They are not looking for mutations in COVID spike protein. The study says this is a big red flag. Especially now when China has lifted COVID-19 restrictions and is allowing its people to travel abroad. How many of them are taking the Wuhan virus with them? How many of them are making China's wave spill over? The earlier countries answer these questions, the better chances they will have of stopping another possible wave of this virus. Let's now take you to North Korea, the most isolated and secretive country in the world. Its leader, Kim Jong-un, tries his best to ensure what happens in North Korea stays in North Korea. But he has failed and the secret is out. You know why North Korea has been making headlines over the last few hours? Authorities in the North Korean capital have ordered a 5-day lockdown. Why is this happening? Because of the rising cases of an unspecified respiratory illness. Let me say that again. An unspecified respiratory illness. Sounds eerily similar to the Wuhan virus, does it not? Let me tell you what's happening on the ground in North Korea. Residents in Pyongyang have to stay at home until the end of Sunday. And during this lockdown, they have to submit to temperature checks multiple times each day. A report put out by Seoul-based NK News cites a government notice that does not mention COVID-19. According to the website, residents in Pyongyang appear to be stocking up on goods. And that the new notice said, illnesses spreading in the capital include the common cold. Now, you must be thinking, it is a lockdown. The world has gotten used to them by now. The Wuhan virus nightmare that started in 2020 made lockdowns the norm. But you see, this part of the world is different. Pyongyang is very different. This is the first citywide lockdown in 8 months. The very fact that this is happening in North Korea is alarming. Do you know when North Korea acknowledged its first COVID-19 outbreak? Long after the rest of the world did. Just last year. And by August, it had claimed victory. You heard that right. It declared it had defeated the Wuhan killer. That the virus nightmare had ended. But who knows? Very little, after all, is known about what actually goes on in the Hermit Kingdom. In May last year, the lockdown lasted over 2 weeks. According to NK News, one Pyongyang official had later revealed that residents were escaping from isolation and stampeding to pharmacies, quote unquote, amid panic and medicine shortages. Death penalty warnings were also issued for family members of those caught spreading rumors about the outbreak and trying to sell scarce medicines on the black market. I know what you're thinking. Is this so-called unspecified respiratory illness the Wuhan virus? Given North Korea's obsession with secrecy, it will take a while before any answers emerge. But the fact that a lockdown has been declared in its capital in itself tells you how serious the situation on the ground really is. And moving on from the troubles in North Korea to the troubles in the American political landscape. The Biden file fiasco is getting uglier. Classified documents now have been found at ex-Vice President Mike Pence's home, while Biden is being slammed by the Democrats over his handling of this entire controversy. Our next report getting you the complete story.
Former US Vice President Mike Pence is in the eye of a storm. Why? Because of a stash of classified files. They were found at his home in Indiana. Ideally, Pence should have returned these files while leaving the Vice President's office. But he did not. Pence is not the first to be found in possession of classified documents. Former President Donald Trump and sitting US President Joe Biden too are guilty. The exception here, though, is that it was Pence's staff who alerted the National Archives about the files, and not the other way around. But this was not enough in saving Pence a probe. The US Congress will now be probing the former Vice President. In charge of this investigation is the all-powerful House Oversight Committee. This committee is currently dominated by Republicans. So it's not surprising that members are already lauding Pence for voluntarily giving up the files. What's more, they're trying to use the case as a lightning rod. The committee has compared the discovery of documents at Pence's residence to seizure of classified files at establishments linked to Biden. The president has been accused of withholding information about the secret files. Meanwhile, Pence's former boss, Donald Trump, has also thrown his weight behind his former aide. The discovery of these files at Pence's residence also throws up interesting possibilities. For starters, Pence is widely expected to challenge Trump in the upcoming race for presidential nominations. Pence has been critical of Trump for endangering his life during the Capitol Hill riots. The discovery of these secret files complicates Pence's leadership ambitions. What it does, though, is paint the possibility of a rapprochement of sorts between Trump and Pence. Here's something else. The White House may look to use the Pence saga to deflect attention from the Biden papers. Can the case be used to shore up Biden's popularity ratings? The jury is still out on that.
You would agree with me when I say that dogs are faithful pets. The bundles of joy bring a lot of happiness and cheer to our lives, but they play more than one role. Many dogs serve as guides or emotional support partners. They are always there for their human best friends, with a loyal heart and a wagging tail. While they are adorable, many are also heroic and brave beyond measure. And one such dog is Bass. Bass served in the US Marine Special Operation Command. During his time in the military, Bass brought many capabilities to the team. He could detect explosive materials and track a person or a group. He also protected his team through his controlled aggression. Bass demonstrated his gallantry on numerous occasions. During his service, he conducted over 350 explosive sweeps. He went on 46 missions to capture high-value targets. Bass also served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia. But out of all, the Afghanistan mission was the most heroic. On the 20th of May 2019, US Marines conducted a nighttime airborne raid to target a Taliban bomb maker in Helmand province. And as the team approached the target structure, hidden Taliban fighters unleashed a barrage of small arms fire. They also detonated an improvised explosive device, or IED. And this killed 2 Afghan partners working with the US Marines. The explosion raised an alarm. It indicated that there might be more IEDs posing threat to the American personnel, the enemies were barricaded. And so the soldiers decided to avoid a frontal assault, and they began clearance of a building next to the rival stronghold. This would help them gain a safer vantage point and a place to take care of their casualties. And that is when Bass took the lead. He began the clearance and immediately sniffed out an explosive that was located right next to the doorway that his team was going to enter. Not only did this hero find a safe entry to the building, he also identified 4 additional explosive devices. His findings saved many American and Afghan lives as the team worked through a mine-laced area. As you can see, Bass has been a very good boy, and now he is being rewarded for his contribution. Bass has received the PDSA Dickin Medal. It is the highest honor any animal can receive after serving in the military. The medal has been awarded only 75 times since 1943. To put it simply, the Dickin Medal is like a Victoria Cross for animals. And Bass's life-saving actions on the night of the raid made him a truly deserving recipient of this grand honor. His handler, Alex Schnell, saying, Bass made a huge impact on the battlefield. You see, in operations like these, soldiers have to really rely on the skills of their dogs. It becomes a matter of life and death. And Bass saved many lives during his service. Bass's military days are now behind him. He is 10 years old and happily retired. After serving in 3 countries, Bass lives with his handler in Texas. He is a wonderful example of how vital animals are. All the Marines who have served with him applaud his exceptional service, his abilities, his determination. He was a clearly respected member of the team. As you can see, dogs are called man's best friend for a reason. Be it cheering you up with their playfulness or saving you from deadly Taliban bombs, a dog can always save the day. And after months of anticipation, this year's Oscar nominations have been unveiled. Like every year, this year too, many artists earned their first nominations. Who were they? Did India make the cut? Do the nominations seem promising? We answer all those questions in our next report.
Here are the nominees for Achievement in Music Original Song. Natu Natu from
Shocked, overwhelmed, honored, and full of gratitude. This year's Oscar nominees are busy celebrating. It is a big deal after all.
Natu Natu.
The nomination puts you in the league of the best actors, directors and musicians of the year. India has not 1, not 2, but 3 reasons to celebrate. This year the country hit a hat-trick at the Oscar nominations, with 3 Indian films bagging nominations. Leading Team India at the Oscars was S.S. Rajamouli's magnum opus RRR. The movie's viral song Natu Natu has grabbed a nomination for Best Original Song.
Natu Natu.
The song has been a favourite at award ceremonies and has already won a Golden Globe. It will be up against heavyweights Lady Gaga and first-time nominated Rihanna, whose songs are nominated in the same Oscars category. Shot outside the Ukrainian president's residence, Natu Natu became an instant hit worldwide when it was released in March 2022. In no time, the world was grooving to the tunes of the song composed by the famous M.M. Keeravani.
A.R. Rahman, the Slumdog Millionaire.
The last time an Indian won an Oscar for a film's music was in 2009, when music composer A.R. Rahman won Best Original Song and Best Original Score for the song Jai Ho, from the film Slumdog Millionaire, directed by Briton Danny Boyle. Apart from the mighty RRR, 2 other Indian movies have made India proud. All That Breathes got nominated for the Best Documentary Feature, And The Elephant Whisperers earned a nod in the Best Documentary Short Film category.
Here are the nominees for performance by an actor in a supporting role.
Let's take a look at the acting categories. There are 20 spots across 4 acting categories: Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress. And this year, 16 of those spots went to first-time nominees. This includes the 73-year-old actor Bill Nighy. The British star receives the first Oscar nomination of his career for Living, in which he plays a veteran civil servant. He is well known for his roles in Love Actually, The Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, where he essayed the role of the Minister of Magic, among other films as a part of his illustrious career. By the way, he is not the oldest nominee this year. Legendary American composer John Williams became the oldest Oscar nominee in history at 90. The composer earned the nod this year for his score for The Fabelmans. He also became the most nominated person currently living, second only to the late Walt Disney. It is interesting to note, British novelist and Nobel laureate Kazuo Ishiguro has also earned his first Oscar nomination for his adapted screenplay for the film Living.
Where'd you gain all that weight?
Someone close to me passed away.
Brendan Fraser, an actor who skipped Golden Globes this year, has been nominated for Best Actor for The Whale.
I've done one thing right with my life!
Surprisingly, the entire Best Actor lineup is made of first-time Oscar nominees. Like Bill Nighy, Jamie Lee Curtis too got her first nod after spending decades in the industry.
Across the multiverse.
The 64-year-old actress was nominated for her lead role in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Meanwhile, award season's favourite, Michelle Yeoh, created history as the first Asian nominated in the Best Actress category at the Academy Awards. Michelle also got the nod for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Really good.
I don't believe you.
The movie is leading the pack with 11 nominations. The nominations come over a month ahead of the official 95th Oscars. Hosted by Jimmy Kimmel, the Academy Awards will be held at the Dolby Theatre on the 12th of March.
And time now to tell you what else made news around the world. Time for Gravitas Global Headlines.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces that India has decided to elevate bilateral relations with Egypt to a strategic partnership as he hosts the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Violence erupted in Peru in an anti-government protest 6 days after the takeover of Lima March took place in the capital city. Clashes flared when a group of protesters stormed a street blocked by fences and a wall of riot police agents who fired at the crowd and threw tear gas canisters to disperse them. A tornado churned through Deer Park in Texas, home to a chemical plant and an oil refinery, causing damage to buildings, trees and power lines. Amazon workers in the UK on strike against the online giant over what they call an insulting pay rise. The workers say robots are treated better. Clamour for full-fledged probe as over 200 child asylum seekers go missing in the UK. The government had started housing them in hotels amid accommodation pressures. A cargo ship sank off the Japanese coast amid fierce winter winds. 13 crew members rescued. Search is on for 9 others who are missing. A chatbot powered by reams of data from the internet has passed exams at a US law school after writing essays on topics ranging from constitutional law to taxation. The European Union executive is all set to implement measures to protect bees from extinction. Some measures to reverse the decline of bees, vital for crop production, include buzz lines for bees and other pollinators, where they could move across Europe and find food and shelter. Nine-time champion Novak Djokovic outclassed world number 6 Andrei Rublev 6-1, 6-2, 6-4 to reach the Australian Open semi-final. He will play Tommy Paul as he bids to equal Rafael Nadal's record of 22 Grand Slam wins. In the women's draw, Poland's Magda Linette continued her dream run as she beat former world number 1 Karolina Pliskova in straight sets to reach her maiden Australian Open semi-final. She will face world number 5 Aryna Sabalenka in the last 4 clash.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. We are leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.
реалии нашей задачи. И тем более в нашу спину меты.
Как родилась идея?
They say teamwork makes the dream work. At Gravitas, we live by this motto. We believe in scripts, not stars. We believe in stories, not stature. We value collaboration, not dictation. This is Gravitas.
You're watching Gravitas?
A show driven by research, not ramblings. A show driven by a team, not one individual. From the writers, to the producers, to the designers and the anchors, we have a diverse crew with diverse opinions. Gravitas, India's only show steered by a team, not a cult of personality.
WION.
बचपन जिंदगी में सिर्फ एक बार आता है, उसे खुल के जीने दो, दाग लगने दो, दीवारों पर लगाए ना पर्ज इजी क्लीन पेंट, नो दाग नो धब्बा, ओनली ब्यूटीफुल वॉल्स। जो मैला ना हो रंगों में, वो क्या बचपन है, जो झूमे ना उमंगों में, वो क्या बचपन है। बचपन जिंदगी में सिर्फ एक बार आता है, उसे खुल के जीने दो, दाग लगने दो, दीवारों पर लगाए ना पर्ज इजी क्लीन पेंट, इसके क्रॉस लिंकिंग पॉलीमर से नो दाग नो धब्बा, ओनली ब्यूटीफुल वॉल्स।
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST.